Dread, where's the market going? What's happening with Bitcoin? What are key levels to look at? These are just some of the questions I've been getting recently around Bitcoin and the market. So I thought, why not have a little brain dump, put it into a video, and show you guys what I'm thinking. So, without further ado, let's get into the video. So, Bitcoin. Right, so I'm going to turn my lights off quick, so I know it's a bit unprofessional. But Bitcoin. So we have Bitcoin on the daily here. We can see that it broke down from this this pennant, this rising wedge, if you will, and we saw it had a little breakdown. It's below the 21-day here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go on a few different time frames because I think there's the more that you zoom out, the more that this makes sense. And I'll kind of just show you what I'm thinking. Not an expert in TA. I need to say that off the bat. But people have been asking, so I thought, let's have a little look. First off, it doesn't look good here, does it? We broke down. We're now retesting the bottom. And time will tell whether we're going to retest the low that we had back in June. I've been saying that I thought once we broke this, we were going to retest the lows. We can see here that we've got this block that's formed all the way since the previous cycle high. And it looks like Bitcoin is coming down. We've had the lowest daily close of this bear market that started all the way from back here at the top in November 2021. And we've had our lowest daily close. We can see it just there, closed lower than all of the others. And it's not a good sign. Depends whether that's a little fake out or whether that means that we're going to be heading lower. I would say it's quite significant, but we can also need to note that we've got a little bit of divergence here, which is quite a good thing for Bitcoin. And we're seeing quite a lot of divergence, actually, if you really take this low and had a nice little line going from there to here. We've got a nice bit of divergence as well on Bitcoin. So we're going to go into the weekly because I think the weekly and the monthly shows a bit more of a clearer picture of what's going on. And I've been saying this for a while that once we had the breakdown, so you can see it on the 3-day, once we had the breakdown from this here, the 200 3-day moving average, once we had a breakdown there, I was confident that we were going to be retesting the bottom of the channel. We broke down from that. And then my next target was the 200 weekly moving average. I've said this before. I've said this in previous videos. So if I'm repeating myself, I don't care. But so we were going to retest this. We broke all the way through it and we retested the previous cycle high. And we retested it, broke through very briefly, but we never really closed below it. We haven't closed below it, actually, which is good. And I think largely that was in part to do with Ethereum. I think Ethereum decided to move quite heavily and has been outperforming Bitcoin. We can see it on the ETH-BTC chart. And Ethereum has been moving. I think it's been dragging the rest of the market up. I don't think it's really just been Bitcoin strength. I think Ethereum's kind of been leading the moves on a lot of this. So with Bitcoin, we'll zoom in a little bit here. We broke down from the 200-week moving average. We've found support on the previous cycle high. Didn't close below, so that's good. Then we had the bounce off. We reclaimed the 200-week moving average briefly, but we broke all the way back down. Now, the 21-week moving average is quite key, I think. You can see it here. Had a rejection, tried to get there, didn't really get there. Rejection, broke down. Once we got above the 21-week moving average, we had a big impulse move up. The same here, broke below, broke down, rejected. Had a little fake out here. Once we got below, big push down. This is kind of COVID, so I don't really count this. I know you should, but this is COVID, liquidity crisis, all of that jazz. So once we got above it, then you can see it acted as nice support here and a huge impulse move up. With all the money printing that happened in 2021 and 2020. So the 21-week moving average is important. You need to see it does react every time it gets near it. We didn't quite get close enough here, but I would be looking out for if Bitcoin was to move higher, the 21-week moving average is the area that you need to pay attention to. So maybe it comes all the way down here, and it rounds off here. The 21-week moving average, if Bitcoin was to interact with it again, that would be an area that we'd need to pay attention to. So let's zoom back in on Bitcoin. Got a bit sidetracked there. So we broke back down below the 21-week moving average. Now we've spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's been 12 weeks since we first pushed down. We had a few candle closes above it, but mostly we've been below the 200-week moving average. Now you can see in Bitcoin's history, we've never had that. We've never had that. We had a few closes here, but it was kind of a fake out and we pushed higher. Didn't close here, didn't close here. We had a wick close here. Again, this is COVID. But we're in uncharted territory here where we're spending a lot of time below the 200-week moving average. Now, nothing good happens below the 200-week moving average. Now, that's a quote I heard recently and I liked it. So that's not good. We're below it still. Now, this is the 300-week moving average. I know you're asking, well, what's that green line below there? That's the 300-week. Now, I only really have this up because we very nearly touched it here with the COVID candle. So I just kind of have it on there. I'm not paying too much attention to it. I don't think it's going to be that important, but we've never closed below the 300-week moving average in Bitcoin's entire history. So if we was, that would signal to me, well, something is not right here, right? These are not good times that we're heading into. So on the weekly, if we close below 19k, let's just say 18.9, but 19k on this week, which is 4 days away, we would have closed below the previous cycle high, which I don't need to tell you that that's not good. Okay. We're retesting the lows here at the moment. So I would expect some price action, some bullish price action to try and close above this previous high here and to make sure we don't get pushed lower or have a candle close below 19.2 on the weekly. That's what I would expect. I would expect some action here that pushes Bitcoin a little bit higher, a little bit of a fight to try and get above 19.2, 19.3 so we don't have that candle close on the weekly that is below all of the rest here. If we was to close below it, then we have to look lower. That's my opinion. Now, this all looks a little bit messy. This block here is just a signifier. We've had the candle close on the daily, on the previous cycle high, and then we had the wick. So that's just what this box is here, and we can see we've responded to it. This here is just makes not a lot of sense, but when you go onto the monthly, it does. So the monthly, there's a couple of things to look out for here. We can see this trend line. We're on the logarithmic chart. If you draw this trend line from Bitcoin back in 2015, that's its entire history, but back in 2015, we can draw this nice trend line where we've had 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch. Now we're at, again, the 4th touch. If we drop below this trend line, we have a close below this trend line on the monthly, then we are going lower because this is a trend line that's been intact for the past 7 years. Now, if we was to drop below this and close below it, again, not good. Where's the level we would be looking at if that was to happen? Well, I think the previous cycle high close on the monthly is the area I would be looking at, which is around 14k. It's around 13.8, 14k. But we had a candle close here on the monthly. We opened here on the next month. When we had this impulse move from the bottom in 2019 and we pushed all the way higher to 14k, we hit the exact point where we had the candle close. Now this acted as resistance, this acted as resistance. If we was to get back down to this level, I would be looking to this area to act as key support. That is the area I would be looking at. I know a lot of people are looking at 10k. I think 10k is just a round sexy number that people have come up with. I think if we was to push lower than 14k, then 11.7 would be the area that I would be looking at. You can kind of see this on the weekly, 11.7, and that's why this block has been created here. So the 14k is the area that I think we need to pay attention to. The 11.7 is also a really important price level in Bitcoin's history. We can see here we had support, then we had rejection, we came up, we couldn't close above the 11.7 area, got rejected a few times here. We got rejected here, we had a little fake out above, rejected, and then we pushed up, and then you see this huge impulse move after 11.7. So I think 11.7 to 14k, that's the area I think is very, very interesting and very attractive. I think that's the area. If Bitcoin happened to get down to these levels, I would be deploying a lot of the capital that I have that's on the sidelines right now. I would be going heavy into the markets, because even if we was to go back down into 10k, 8k, whatever, I would feel extremely comfortable buying in this level. Because again, I've tweeted about this recently. If you believe crypto or Bitcoin or the projects that you hold, they have long-term futures, and you believe that we are going to be returning to higher prices, buying in any of these levels is good. It's just really talking about how much are you going to get for the money you have. How much Bitcoin, how much quant, how much whatever are you going to get for the money you have available right now. So obviously if you used to buy here, you're going to get less Bitcoin than if you used to buy here. Obviously a fucking monkey can tell you that. But I would feel extremely comfortable buying in this block between 14k and 11.5 or 11.7. I'm not to say that we will definitely get to that level. Now, I think we're going to see a bit of a fight here at 19.2. I think if we can close 19.2, I would not be surprised if we don't see the bottom here at 17.6. But I do kind of expect it. I think the worsening global macro situation, again, I've said it a bunch of times, we're following macro. Bitcoin is following macro. And I think once a lot of the Ethereum merge talk kind of eases off and the merge happens, I wouldn't be surprised if we do have a little bit of a sell-off. And I think it's not outside the realms of possibility that we see this area down at the 14k. And I don't think it's crazy. I think if the stock market really sells off, I think if the dollar keeps going higher, it's a possibility. It's definitely a possibility. So I think people need to understand that, like, just because a lot of people on Twitter are saying it's the bottom, doesn't mean that it is. Again, it doesn't mean that I'm right, but I'm open to all scenarios at this point. And I think you would do well to be open to all scenarios and not just be narrow-minded and think, we're definitely at the bottom. The bottom is definitely in. I think it's to look at it from different points of view, but I'm definitely having what I would like to see. My plan would be if we was to close above 19.2 and we was to see some more rounding off here and really keep this level at the previous cycle high, and the macro picture really starts turning. So the war stuff kind of starts easing off. The dollar tops out. The VIX goes lower. It starts getting a bit more interesting for risk on assets. Maybe the bottom would be in. Maybe it would be a good time to start entering into positions here. But if things still get worse, if we close below this 19.2 area, I do think, and we close below this trend line, then the 14k area is something that I would be heavily looking at. Another thing that I think we need to pay attention to that would be, is another cap in the bullish hat is that's definitely not a saying. Another cap in the bullish hat. Forget I said that one. That was a ridiculous. I don't know what the fuck that meant. So, another thing that I think need to pay attention to is on the weekly here, we've got some bullish divergence. Bullish divergence. We've got some divergence. We've definitely got some divergence. We entered into oversold areas here, and then now we've popped out, and it looks like we've got a bit of divergence here. Another reason why we may see a reaction here at the previous cycle top. We may see this reaction to push us a little bit higher, maybe even retest 200-week moving average again. Do I expect it to push higher? No, because I think we've got the downside coming from the 21 week. And I do think that the 200 week moving average will act as a bit of resistance as well. We'll probably print a lower high. That's just my opinion. But another thing I wanted to talk about on the monthly is that we are lower on the RSI than we have been at any point in Bitcoin's entire history. So let's get Bitcoin's entire history up. I'm going to have to take a little bit of a drink. I'm sorry, I do this every video. But you guys know that this is how I do things. It's the rambles, it's the brain farts. These aren't professional videos, and I appreciate you sticking around if you have this long. So we're lower than at any point in Bitcoin's entire history on the RSI. Let's get a little bit of a line going just so we can... So you see that little line there? Let's make it a different color, just in case you guys are saying, what line? What are you talking about? There we go. This red line here. So the cycle bottom here on the bear cycle low here, we printed the candle, and we had a low on the RSI on the monthly for Bitcoin. When we got here, another cycle low, RSI, exact same level. We're below that right now. We are lower than we have ever been on Bitcoin's history on the monthly RSI. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't just pop back up, but I can see a scenario playing out, and this is not to say that I think this will definitely happen, but I can see a scenario play out where we do break this trend line. Now, we break this trend line, and if we push lower, again, the levels I'm looking at is this block here. So here, and let's just say blah, 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 there, right? So this block here. Let's draw it in. Let's just go all out on this. Let's just do it. There you go. Let's get rid of that bullshit. So this little red block we see in here, that is the block that I would be looking at. There we go. That would be the block that I'd be looking at. If we was to break this trend line, we enter this block, I could see either finding support on here and having a little bit of a range between 14 and 20 and having a little bit of a range. If we break lower and go down to the 11, I could see us having a range here. I could see the RSI pushing lower, and if we manage to get oversold areas on the monthly, if macro really starts worsening and Bitcoin really starts pushing down into these lower levels, we're going to likely see the RSI on the monthly enter oversold areas. And I think this is another thing that I wanted to talk about. I think the thing that may kill most people is the time it takes for all of this to play out. I think that is the thing that may kill most people, because I think a lot of people are thinking, well, we'll get a little wick down and then we'll push straight back up and then blah, blah, blah. I don't think it'll happen like that. If we really break down here, it's going to take some time. If the macro stuff really does start going down the toilet, it's going to take a while for that to play out. Now, you may see, this is where we get the wiggles coming out. It may take a bit of time. Like, it may do something like this. And that's not a straight line, but maybe we'll get some range in. But it could take a while. It could take a lot of 2023. It could take the first 6 months of 2023. Who knows? But the point is, if we manage to get oversold areas on the monthly of Bitcoin, then that is a sign. That is a huge buy signal for me personally. I've always looked at the oversold area on the RSI on the weekly. This signaled the bottom. This signaled the bottom. We entered it there. So maybe that was the bottom. But if we was to break lower, if we managed to get down to the oversold areas on the monthly, and it managed to push down all the way down here, and the first 6 months of 2023 we entered oversold, that's a huge buy signal for me personally. So I think we need to see how Bitcoin reacts this week at the previous cycle high. But I'm still leaning bearish than I am bullish. I need to see some real changes in the macro scene. And I'm just not quite seeing it yet. I do think there's more pain to come. I do think this is going to take a lot longer to play out than people want or people would expect. Um, so that's it. That's kind of what I'm looking at. The key areas really is the area we're at right now, 19.2. Then it's 14k, then it's 11.7. And I don't think that's controversial, but that's just what I'm seeing. I think some key things we have to look at as well are the 21-week moving average, how Bitcoin reacts at the 200-week moving average as well. And I'm not putting too much onus into the 300-week moving average, I'll be honest with you. But that's kind of what I'm seeing at the moment. I think it's pretty much, I wouldn't say it's playing out as I expected, but when we had the 3-day, when I had my eyes on the 3-day, I sold a lot of it around 40k because we broke this 3-day 200 3-day moving average, and it played out largely as I expected in terms of we had to have a reaction here, we didn't. Then I was looking at the 200-week moving average and we hit it. I didn't expect it to push through so hard and aggressively, but the liquidations and the free AC and the Celsius stuff really put some pressure on the markets. And I think that is another thing. When I go back to the fact that, if you believe crypto is the long-term future of finance, whatever, I think this year Bitcoin has been put under incredible amounts of stress. I think, I'll tell you what, let's go back to there we go. I think Bitcoin has been put under an incredible amount of stress this year. I think where we've had the free AC stuff, we've had the Celsius liquidations, we've had the war, we've had the energy, the food crisis, we've had Bitcoin and crypto put under incredible amounts of stress. The fact that Bitcoin is still at 20k or just below is kind of a good signal to me. It makes me think, with all of these stresses that are going on around the world, crypto and Bitcoin have actually held up pretty damn well. And in past times, I would have thought, man, these kind of conditions, these are the conditions that you would have hoped Bitcoin would thrive in. But there's the other side of that. I thought, if these conditions happened, then the markets are going to get trashed. And we're going to be entering back down to fucking 1, 2, 3k. But Bitcoin has been so damn resilient. And I do believe that this signals that Bitcoin is not going anywhere. These markets aren't going anywhere. Crypto, Ethereum, Bitcoin, all of these projects, they're not going anywhere. The ones that you believe in, the strong fundamentals. So I have very strong faith. I want to be around for the next 5-10 years and investing in these markets, because I believe that they're not really going anywhere. And anything that we see now on these charts under 20k is a big opportunity. It's a very big opportunity, I believe. If you're investing in the right projects, definitely we have a big opportunity here. The lower we go, the bigger the opportunity. I did a tweet about it today. Maximum opportunity lies around 14k for me. So that's it. That's what I'm saying. I hope it helped. I don't want to do an outro. I just want to go and get a drink. So have a good day, everyone. Love you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.